What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average Joe Rating Climb. This is a special chess.com account that they have given me where my opponents get their points refunded so we can start at a low rating and work our way up. If you click on my account, you can see that it's marked as an authorized account. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's jump into some games, and I have some really interesting openings on the list here. I'm excited to play some of these. So let's go ahead and play e4, and we do see a Sicilian. Okay, so there's a gambit called I believe it's called the Yan Yan Gambit, and it starts with the move c3. This is something that's... Okay, that's not the move that I was hoping to see. Usually when you play c3, they'll play d5, and you can do this crazy gambit. Not going to get a chance, so against this, I guess I'll just get 2 pawns in the center. That's kind of the point of c3. You're threatening to go d4. One of the drawbacks of this move is that if they do play d5 and you take, and they take you, you can't attack their queen with your knight. And that's why d5 is a lot of times a good move. But since they didn't play it, I will just go ahead and get my pawns in the center, and then I'll just recapture. So we have 2 pawns in the center, controlling a lot of these important squares. They go a6, and I guess we're just going to develop our pieces at this point. I don't really have a particular gambit to play against this. The Yan Yan Gambit, though, it's from FIDE Master William... is it Grafe, something like that? He's on YouTube. I've seen like a couple of his videos. He does like all these different kind of gambits, and that one was an interesting one that somebody recommended. I had to go find his video because I'd never heard of it. Okay, so we've got the center, we've got the knights, and now we have to figure out where to put the bishops. So I'm going to kind of consider my options, and one thing that I do want to think about is castling quickly. So in general, I do like to develop this bishop before this one if I see a good move to do that. So bishop b5 obviously will get captured. Bishop c4 doesn't look like it's doing a whole lot. We might actually get chased around by the pawns at some point as well. What about bishop d3 or bishop to e2? Yeah, I kind of like maybe bishop d3. It just seems like it's a nice square to support the center. The knight jumping into f4, we do have that covered, so I don't think I'm concerned with that. And we could also fianchetto the bishop like this. Now, normally I don't do this with my bishop, but because they've put their knight here, I actually am thinking about doing this. This is a really easy and simple thing to do. I think I actually am going to do it. When somebody puts their knight on like g6 or b6, if you push this pawn up, it just totally dominates the knight. The knight can't move forward, and you've taken away those squares. And now I'll go bishop g2. The other thing about the bishop here is if this pawn ever moves forward, I'm going to have this guy slicing down the diagonal, which can really cause some problems for the black rook. So I don't know if this is the best approach, but it makes a lot of sense, and so that's why I decided to do it, primarily because the knight's on g6. Oh, and they do play b6. So immediately I'm thinking, can I take advantage of this somehow with the tactic? Now, of course, it's not that simple because they have 2 pieces that I have to move, but definitely going to be keeping an eye on that as we continue here. Even something like d5 takes, maybe my queen can jump in, put the pressure there. They'd probably play knight c6. I don't know. Or the knight could jump in. Yeah, I'll probably want a castle. But d5 takes. Yeah, I think we can... Let's go ahead and castle before we start initiating the complications in the center. That's generally a good rule to follow. And they do go bishop to b7. So yeah, we're going to keep an eye on this. Look for the tactics. I kind of want to play d5 because I feel like if we can get d5 in and capture, we've really cramped down on this knight trying to develop. And this is important, right? At the start of the game, the important thing is that you develop your pieces. So if we can prevent that without really creating any weaknesses in our position, now we do give up these squares when we go there, but this one we've got controlled. This one, I'm not super concerned with that. So I do think that d5 is a smart move here before black gets a chance to play it. And then the knight actually does have a square to go to. So right now, the knight has nowhere to go to. And if they take me, guess what? I'm going to take this way, open up the e file, and black has to be very careful. Okay, they push, or they go bishop f6. So I'm considering pushing. But then the knight does have a square. Even though it's kind of an annoying pawn, all the pieces are developed. I'm not really cramping on anything down except maybe the queen, but then b6, the queen comes out. So yeah, maybe I won't go there actually. Okay, what about e5? Now it looks like I'm losing a pawn. But if I take, they take. This is what I'm talking about. We've opened up the diagonal. Maybe we can take here with the threat. And if they try to trade, guess what? I'm going to have a little in-between move to lure out the king. That looks pretty dangerous. So takes. The other thing I could do is play something like rook e1 also, throw in that little move as well. So yeah, this looks good because the king has not castled. I think we're going to get into a nice position here. So I'm going to go ahead, throw the pawn forward, and this is very little risk to me. I'm already castled. Even if I end up losing a pawn in the center here, just opening up the king like that is probably going to be a good decision. Yes, so here we go. I'm really thinking this is a good move. Because you don't have time to take me back because, like I said, that tactic is there. We take the bishop. So probably they're going to take me. But then I go in between with this check. The king is totally exposed. And then I can take the bishop back. And I think we're pretty happy with that position. There are probably some other moves too. Maybe rook e1, but I don't know how powerful that is at this moment. Yeah, I'm going to do this. This looks really good. This looks really good because if you can lure the king out like that before it gets castled, that's extremely dangerous for your opponent. So here we go, in between move. And now we'll probably take back the bishop. There's also queen h5 check trying to fork these guys. The issue is, like, even if they play, like, let's say g6 and I take, this bishop's going to just start taking stuff. I don't like that. I think we do need to recapture. But we've successfully exposed black's king. And even though it's even, I much prefer my position. I think we already have some very dangerous tactics. Look at this. Both of these would be forks where we can win some material potentially. This one, maybe not because the king might come out, but that looks awful for black, right? If you have to move your king there. So, yeah, I think black's already in trouble here. Okay, so they play rook f8. What should I play? Well, I already said both of these moves actually look really good. I guess technically a rook's better than a bishop, so I should probably do that. The only thing is the bishop's sitting in the middle of the board, so I kind of want to take that guy. But we'll start with queen d5 check. We'll see where the king moves, and then we'll make the decision on what to do. The nice thing about queen d5 check instead of queen h5 is the king actually can't even escape. So we're causing more problems for the black king at the same time, and I'm going to get a rook. Those in-between moves are called Zwischenzug tactics, and they're very, very sneaky and hard to see. Yeah, this is actually really tempting to take this or even go rook e1. Of course, a rook, you know, that's going to be winning, but I almost want to just do this. Let him save the rook with knight c6. No, then I can't really. Because if you go here, I just go back and I still get the rook. The move is queen. Okay, well, they didn't want to look at that position any longer. All right, yeah, it didn't matter what I did. And actually, Stockfish says taking the bishop was the best move. And that's what I was kind of trying to calculate there. Because I just had a feeling that, like, for some reason that was better. I couldn't tell you exactly why. Let's check the game review. And then we'll analyze that position. Just
you had a nice tactical find in this game. Let's review.
Did you guys hear that? I don't believe that has ever happened before. That kind of freaked me out. I was like, who is talking in my video? Chess.com now talks to me. Okay. Yeah, 92. Wow, that really, like, totally just threw off my focus. I wonder if I can... Yeah, I can mute it. Okay, let me see if I can keep that muted. All right, what was I going to say? I was going to look at the... Yeah, that position. Okay. Wow. So the gambit that I was hoping to play is, like, after d5, you can play knight a3. It's super wild, and there was an error classifying the move. Anyway, they take, you go here. I think it's something... I don't even actually know it. Something like this, and then the bishop comes to f4, the knight jumps in, you castle. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see it. Anyway, back to the game. So, yeah, e5 was the best move, and this was the best move, and then, yeah, this was the best move. So this is what I was saying. Chess.com is being kind of weird today. I apologize, guys. This is a hard move to see, because most people, when they're calculating, they're just going to say, okay, I take, he takes. Right? I mean, I've done that many times, and then my opponent plays something else, and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from, right? So you really want to pay attention whenever there's like a check or the ability to attack a high-value piece. Sometimes those moves are, they're more important, right? Obviously, check is more important than recapturing it. So you have to try to train your brain to stop and wait a second. Maybe there's an in-between move, right? And now the king's totally exposed, and black is just in trouble. Queen d5, yeah. And so queen takes e5 is the best move. And what's the idea? Well, the idea is if you go here with your king, guess what? I just go back, and now I got the bishop, and I'm going to get the rook as well. So you would have to block with the queen. And what does Stockfish say here? Queen d5 now, attacking the rook. And if you block with the knight, bishop g5, look at this. And the reason it's more valuable than taking the rook is because you're about to come here, win the queen, and maybe checkmate the king. And like if the queen tries to run away somewhere, I think black's just getting checkmated. Yeah, it's just even worse. Okay, and so you can see how sometimes rather than taking a piece that's off to the side or in the corner, if you can take one that's centralized, that also puts pressure on your opponent's king, that might be more valuable, right? And that's what we saw here. Okay? All right, let's go to the next game. New 10-minute game. We are white again. Let me play e4 again, and we'll see if we see another Sicilian. No, now we have a French defense. Okay. Do I have any openings against the French that you guys have requested? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. So what I'm going to play, I'll teach you a different gambit here. You can play d4. I really like to play this one against the French, is bishop to e3. And it looks like a weird move, but you have to realize a couple of things. Number one, when people play the French, a lot of times they like to play c5. So we're kind of putting some pressure there immediately. We are baiting them to take us because we want to follow up with f3. And now we're trying to get 2 pawns in the center and have this d-pawn just gone, which is kind of cool. If they don't want that to happen, they have to take us or play knight f6, which is what a lot of people do. We'll talk about knight f6 if we... Oh, they do play knight f6. Interesting. So what we're going to do here is take this, and when they recapture, we're going to actually set a little trap. Okay? Perfect. So we're going to attack the knight with our bishop. And if you ever move your f-pawn, you always have to watch out for a queen check. Okay? And this can be a very dangerous tactic where you can just lose some material. And the idea usually is that if you block after the queen moves here, they take it with their knight. And you can't take back because you lose your rook. So it's kind of a bad situation. And this position looks like we made a mistake. It looks like we just blundered something, right? But we have a trap because of our bishop on e3. That's another reason why we put the bishop on e3, okay? So, oh, and perfect. He's going to go for it. And this is like a lot of strong players have fallen for that. Like 2,400 rated players have fallen for this as well, okay? So what are we going to do? We're going to play g3. And it looks like we're getting in trouble. Knight takes g3, right? But we have bishop f2. This is the key move. Yeah, here we go. And what we are doing is pinning the knight. So you can't take my rook. I've now dealt with the threat on my king. And guess what? I'm threatening to just take your knight with my bishop. And black's actually in trouble. So this is a little trap, opening trap that they've fallen for. This is called the Alapin Gambit against the French defense. And we'll see how they're going to respond, but they're already in a losing position. But this is again, it's one of those kind of in-between moves, right? Like you calculate like, okay, I take, he takes, I take. Yeah, that works great for me. And you forget about the in-between move. Yeah, bishop d6 is a good try. He's trying to defend it. So what should we do? Should I still take it? The answer is no, right? Because now the bishop would take me, and I have the same problem. I can't take back, and I lose my rook. So what do I need to do? Well, the move is... I think this is the only move. I'm trying to see if there's another... Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the only move. The move is queen f3. And what we're doing is adding another attacker. We still have the pin, so the knight can't move. And we've also added a defender to our rook, so that now we do have the option to use the pawn because there's no longer a pin here. So this queen f3 is a very good response to this bishop d6. Okay, and again, black is in trouble here, and we're going to get the knight one way or the other, unless they're willing to, sack their queen or something, but that's what's going to happen. I think I actually had a game recently against a strong player who played maybe queen h6, and they were trying to, like, sneak in here. Or queen g5 with the same idea, something like that. And I think what I did was just take it and then block with my queen and then play knight d2. And I believe that was a good position. So we'll see if we get to play that or not. But I don't like playing against the French defense. I don't like the normal positions that you get in the French. And so I've really, really enjoyed switching to the Alapin Gambit against the French. Uh, yeah, just I think my level of enjoyment of playing against the French defense went way up when I started playing this. So highly recommended if you don't like playing against the French. Now, if you already have a system that you play, that's a different story, right? But I just never liked it. So this has been a great experience for me. Yeah, and they're thinking a bit, which makes sense. It's a complicated position, but tactically, everything kind of works out for me. I think our opponent actually seems like a pretty good player because they noticed the tactic. They found this idea to go here. They're slowing down, using their time at a critical moment. I mean, they're doing a lot of things right. So I got to say, props to my opponent. For a 1300 rated player, I think they're playing pretty well, honestly. So are we going to see Queen H6 with the sneaky Queen C1 idea, or are they going to come up with a different plan? Maybe just like develop a piece or something. They do get a couple of pawns, so it's not like the game is totally over, but it's okay. Yeah, they do go for this same idea. So I'm just thinking if there's anything else I want to do, but I'm pretty sure I'll just go for the same idea. So we take here. Of course, if they take, I take back. Not a big deal. I could also keep the bishops on the board and take with the pawn first. Does it benefit me to keep those bishops or to trade those bishops? So check. I'm going to block. He's going to take, and I'm going to move my knight to d2 so that my queen defends my rook. You know what? I actually, in that position, I think I would like my pawn to be defended. Otherwise, I lose the pawn. It's not actually the end of the world if I lose the pawn, though, because then I could attack again. I'm getting so many tempo. It's hard to say. I guess we'll keep the pieces on the board. I don't know if that's the best decision or not, but I guess we'll keep them on the board. So I'll take with the pawn. And I'm assuming the queen's going to come in. Kind of like I said, we'll go queen d1, and then we'll move our knight. So this is a good idea. When somebody takes this pawn and they're attacking your rook, as long as your queen is there, it's not a big deal. You just move your knight, and you defend the rook. And you're good to go. Actually, you can follow that up in the future with rook b1 and make use of that open b file. Your rook comes into the game, controls a lot of squares. So yeah, I don't mind this at all. And remember, we have 4 pieces against 3 pieces. Okay, we're up a piece. So that's the good news. Bishop to b4 is an interesting move. He wants to take, and the idea is if my queen has to take, he's going to take my rook. So we have to prevent that. If we go rook b1 takes, I will have to take with my king, which honestly is not terrible. But the other thing that I could do would be to just develop a piece, and then if you take, I just recapture with my knight. Both of those seem fine. Yeah, I think I might just develop the knight. I mean, that just seems like a good move. Then I could castle if I need to. If the bishop comes in, I'll just move my rook. Yeah, let's just develop. And, let's talk about castling here for a second, because it looks like, wait a second, Nelson, you're going to castle where you only have one pawn that's advanced in front of your king? And the answer is yes, probably. And the reason is, first of all, I have a bunch of pieces. So it's not like my king has no shelter. But also, look at all of Black's pieces. They're all on the other side of the board. So if your opponent's major pieces are all on the other side of the board, even if you do castle to a kind of a exposed area of the board, you're going to probably be safe for quite a while. And so I actually just feel like that's the safest place for my king. Okay, let's just make sure. Are we losing anything here? Let's say I castle. And now if you take, I could actually take with the queen because my rook is defending. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Let's castle. Make sure I'm not blundering anything. I'm just kind of scanning, like, making sure this is defended enough. 2 attackers, 2 defenders. This is defended. I don't see any other problems with the bishop coming in or the rook coming in, you know, things like that. So I'll castle. And if you're wondering, like, what about this pawn? I don't care about that pawn. I care about getting my king to safety. And I want to make sure that my pieces get active, like this rook, this being defended. That's more important to me than grabbing a pawn. I'm already up material, right? I have the extra piece. So getting a pawn doesn't really change that too much. But if my king gets in trouble because I didn't castle, because I open up the H file, you know, that could matter. So it's more important that you focus on getting your pieces to good squares and your king safe. So yeah, I'm going to play rook b1 next. And now this I just take with the queen. And then we've activated the rook. Slowly but surely, we're just activating all the pieces, putting them on good squares. And you know, if black castles, I could actually go king g2, rook h1, and then attack this way if I want. Okay, goes queen c3. Interesting move. Doesn't actually threaten this immediately. If you take here, I could take with the bishop, so you're not really threatening anything by going there. I could attack that with knight e4. Now, I do want to ask the question, where does the queen go if I go there? No, 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 no. You have to go back to b1. So knight here, queen b1, rook b1. Yeah, that might be a good plan. Just, it centralizes my knight. I gain a bunch of tempo on the queen, so black can't develop their pieces or castle. I like that a lot. I could also play rook b1 first and then try to trap the queen, but I don't know, black might come up with some move that prevents that. So I think I'll just go ahead and play it. That looked pretty good for me. And this is one of the big dangers of bringing out your queen early in the game, is that because it's such a high value piece, you have to move it every time it gets attacked. And so I'm going to attack it here. It's going to move here. I'm going to attack it again with my rook. And every single time, you can't do anything else. You have to just keep moving your queen. Oh, queen a3. I actually forgot about that square. So he does avoid the rook b1 tempo loss. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so I still might play rook b1, or I might look for a different move now. Let me try to evaluate this position. So I'm up the material, so trading makes sense. 3, 6, 7. He does have 3 pawns for the piece, but it's so early in the game, I have a hard time believing black's going to be able to really hold on to all those pawns as the game goes on. I'm not super concerned with that. I do feel like I should maybe try to attack here because the king looks a bit bare. I mean, you've got all these pieces over here. The rooks are not in good positions. This guy's stuck. So I feel like using the f-file and somehow attacking the king makes a lot of sense. So how could I do that? Well, maybe knight g5 and move my bishop or something. That looks like a pretty good plan. Even bishop e1 to trade is also... Yeah, I know, I like this, though, because then it lets my queen come over there. I'm just envisioning all kinds of tactics with my knights, my bishops, my rook, my queen. Yeah, that looks really good. So I think we're going to go here. Let's just make sure this guy is defended. Queen's not threatening anything. Everything's defended. My king looks okay. Yeah, I don't want to use all my time, so let's go ahead and play knight g5. And like on a move like h6, for example, queen h5 looks very powerful. Even just sacking and then going like bishop e3, the rook's involved, then my queen comes in. I don't have to calculate all that stuff. My intuition tells me that's going to be a good position. Just because you just look at these pieces, right? All of black's pieces are kind of like misplaced. They're not really able to help defend the king if it's sitting on f7, and I'm going to have my knight, my bishop, my rook, my queen, my other bishop. That's why a move like this probably is going to be really good. Uh, my 2-year-old is having a massive meltdown. I'm going to just try to run really fast. Okay, we didn't lose on time, so that's good. All right. So, yeah, this is, I mean, there are so many moves here, but probably just queen h5 is going to be the easiest. The other move is knight f6 check, because if you take, then I go queen h5. Wow. All right. So yeah, the question is, which way do we do the order? So we could start with queen h5, okay? And to stop the checkmate, I believe you have to go h6. But then I could go knight f6 check. If you take me, I take on h6, and I have multiple checkmate threats here. So even if you take my knight, it's still checkmate. So queen h5, h6, knight f6. King h8. We can take here with check. Oh, that's such a cool checkmate. I can actually take with the queen first. And if you take them, that's checkmate. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's do it. Let's go queen h5 first. It's hard to say. We'll see if I made a mistake here, but I think he's going to play h6. And then knight f6 check. King's going to move in the corner. So knight f6 check. King moves in the corner. I take here. If you take me, that's an amazing checkmate. That is a beautiful checkmate. Look at that. So you can't take me. I don't know exactly what my threat is. I guess my threat is to just come back and then checkmate over here, which is a powerful threat. Yeah, let's do it. Knight f6 check. And of course, I already talked about if they take, then I just take here and I'm coming in for the checkmate that way. So you got to go king h8. This is probably also winning, but then the rook can sacrifice. And I don't know if there's a way they survive, but this queen move is just so amazing. I think that just wins the game. Yeah, that's beautiful. So king h8. We're going to take. Brilliant move, I'm sure. And then, can black find any move that survives, helps them survive? And the reason it's so beautiful is because look at the knight, right? Take me, I take you. Look at that. Oh, 2 knight checkmate. Come on, come on. Take the queen. He's gonna see it. Obviously, this person's pretty good at tactics. They're gonna see it. But they don't really have anything else they can do, I don't think. If you take this knight, that's checkmate. If you take this knight, that's checkmate. So you can't take either knight. Can't take the queen. What do you do? Like I don't have any idea what they can do. And regardless of what they do, I'm just gonna go queen here and checkmate next. Yeah, that's it. That is it, my friends. Okay, it goes bishop e7, which avoids the 2 knight checkmate, unfortunately for us. But I will continue with the plan here, queen g6. And this is going to be checkmate next move. And I don't see how you stop that. Yes, you can take one of the knights, but it doesn't matter. The king is obviously stuck in the corner, can't move. And so that's who's going to do it. But, I mean, you saw how when black castled, all the pieces were on the other side of the board. They didn't have any pieces to defend the king, and I had all these pieces to attack, right? I didn't even have to use my rooks and my bishop. I just needed the 2 knights, the queen, and the bishop. But still, that's a lot, right? It's too bad they didn't let us get the 2 knight checkmate. But good game. Let's take a look. I think our opponent played pretty well, honestly, considering how well we knew that. Yeah, 94. So, yeah, this was the mistake that looks like a very good move. And normally it would be. Normally, like 9 times out of 10, this is a great setup for black. But because this bishop is sitting on e3, it changes everything, right? And we do have the sneaky move. They played bishop e6, queen of 3. What's Stockfish say? Yeah, Stockfish says this is the best move. Taking, and then you just go back. Yep, so we did everything right. It actually did want rook b1 here, probably just to force the trade, take with the king, not a big deal. And then you just continue developing. Okay. And then at the end, yeah, this was the best move. And basically, you know, the way that I came up with this was just scanning the board and identifying where am I strongest and where is my opponent weakest, right? Where am I strongest? Well, I have an extra piece. I have a lead in development because I'm already castled. I have all 4 pieces out. Black is not developed, not castled. And then which section of the board am I stronger on? Well, this side, right? Black has like no pieces over here. I mean, look at this. All they have is a king and a rook. And I've got 1 and 2. Look at all these pieces, right? So you can just obviously see this is where I'm strongest. So I need to do something that attacks. And I chose this knight because it lets my queen out. And the queen is a very, very powerful attacking piece, obviously, the most powerful. And so finding a move that lets the queen out was what happened. And of course, this is going to be checkmate. Let's see. Knight f6 was a brilliant move. Oh, queen takes f7 wasn't a brilliant move. Come on, chess.com. Come on, that's totally a brilliant move. I got robbed. Anyway, yeah, that was the best move. So yeah, this one, the problem is you take, and they go bishop d7, which defends the checkmate. You can try to come back here, but then they can sacrifice, and the game goes on. And yes, it's still really good for me, and it's, according to the engine, like made in 13, but not as good as going with the queen sacrifice, and I was really trying to get this position. So beautiful. All right, let's go to the next game. Man, what a nice checkmate. Okay. All right, we're playing as black. Let's see what we're going to face here. Okay, e4. What do I want to play? We didn't really ever get a Stafford Gambit, so that's one thing. But there's also a new opening on my list that somebody played against me, the Madladn G-Sling, which is throwing your G-pawn up here. I don't know what to do. I'm torn. Let's do it. Let's do it. Madladn G-Sling. Apparently, let me tell you guys the story. There's some guy on YouTube with like 50 subscribers or something who it's not even like a chess player. He invented this opening. It's named after him now, where he pushes his pawn up here. And after the queen takes it, you try to like gain tempo on the queen, is basically the idea. Now, oh, you do take it. Wow. So, of course, we have knight f6. But d5 is going to be better. Why? Because we're going to win a piece. Look at this. Madladn G-Sling already is bringing us some success here. And you can throw in a check. Doesn't matter. I'm going to play c6, and I'm still going to win a piece because you have two problems, and you can only make one move at a time. Okay, and then we will take the piece. So Madladn G-Sling strikes again. It's actually saying it's just the Borg defense. Maybe because they didn't play d4. Maybe you have to play d4 for it to be the Madladn. Anyway, now we have this position, up a piece. I'm very happy about that. I want to develop. And I think I'm going to start with my knight. That's the general rule, knights before bishops. I like that this knight can kind of control some of these dark squares. Let's just say something like this happened. I could play e5 because it's defended. I will do that. Knight to c6. So notice I'm paying attention to the weaknesses in my position, right? When I move my g-pawn, this diagonal is a weakness. And so knight c6 helps support that because, like I said, I could always block with the e-pawn if I need to. Okay, plays d3. I think we can... Yeah, maybe I will just play e5 now. And what I want to do, guys, is move my bishop here and gain a tempo, but I don't want to block my pawn like this. It's usually not a good strategy. So let me go ahead, play e5. Now I can go here, not blocking anything. Also lets out my bishop over here, so I have options this way. Then we can develop, and I don't know if we're going to use this to attack or what we're going to do, but let's go ahead and gain the tempo. Always a smart move when you can gain a tempo and develop a piece at the same time on a queen. Like 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the best move. Ooh. Something should jump out at you guys immediately. And what is it? Well, hopefully you said these guys are on the same diagonal, so we have a pin. We do have a pin, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a resignation here. Because that is a hard one to deal with. Nope, they're going to play on. We have to take the queen, obviously, because the king has escaped. And I think we want to attack the king. I mean, we've got a queen. They don't. I would like to use my rook. So knight f6, rook here. Or do I want to get my queen out first, then go knight f6, and then go rook here? That's also an option. Well, we'll just go with the knight first. I'll keep the queen back just for a bit. But queen h4 might have been a good move too. f4. All right. So I don't really want to let them push here and chase my bishop. So I could take to prevent that. Or I could just do something else. Okay, so let me run this through what I'm thinking. When they play f4, what's the weakness that's created? This diagonal, right? So I really would like to somehow play knight to g4, queen to d4, and get like a smothered checkmate, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say smothered checkmate, don't worry about it, but it's a nice tactic. It starts with a position like this, okay? The problem is this knight is here. So I'm thinking about like somehow moving my knight, trying to get white to take me, and then jumping in with the knight. If we can accomplish that, we're in good shape. So maybe just knight to d4 is the best try, because I am making some threats here. Yeah, we might sack a pawn, but who cares? Then my knight can jump here. The other thing about my knight jumping here is queen h4. So that's the other thing. I could just play this immediately. Let's say they push, who cares? Queen h4 threatens checkmate. And that's not an easy thing to stop. So the question is, how do we want to do this? Here, f5 here. They could play h3 though. They could play h3. All right, I think I will. I think I will actually jump in with this knight. Because I'm creating some tension here. Maybe it ties this knight to defending. Maybe they will take me, who knows? And I'm also threatening potentially to go here. They go for f5. Yeah, so I am really, really tempted to just sacrifice this bishop, to be honest with you guys. For example, knight to g4. Takes. Queen to h4. Sure, there's a check, but who cares? I'll just move my king or something. That's not a big deal. Do I have a checkmate? h3. Yeah, h3 is a good defensive move, though, unfortunately. So maybe I won't sacrifice my bishop just yet. I could just move back. But then if they take me, I don't get the queen there like I wanted. Interesting position. I mean, I could go all the way back. I hate to do that because my rook. Really hate to do that. I could go knight g4 takes and then just take with a pawn. Why would I do that? Because then my queen can come over. Then I can castle and use both rooks. That actually seems like something Stockfish would do. That seems like a Stockfish thing. I could be way off here. I'm going to do it. I like that a lot. Let's go knight g4. We're going to sack the bishop just to open up my queen and open up the files for the rooks. Okay, we're going to take this way. And I'm not even worried about this diagonal because there's no diagonal piece. The queen is gone, the bishop is gone. So there's no piece that can cause me problems there. So I'm okay doing this. And now look, notice what I've done. My queen is ready to go. I'm going to castle. And I'm going to bring my rooks. Now this move is interesting because I don't really want to go backwards. So what I'm thinking is h5. This is kind of like a fishing pole trap idea. And when you do this, even if you lose the piece, you get something more valuable. You get the open H file. And guess what? When my queen comes over, that's what's called a battery. Rook and queen battery. Sorry, rook and queen battery. Very, very easy to checkmate. Okay, so we'll see if they're going to go for it. But I am quite happy with that if they do. Well, now we go back to my previous plan. We take this way with check. And the king has to move in the corner. But then you walk into a check here. if I want. I could also just leave this, because if I take back, that's just checkmate immediately after the bishop blocks. So, castling is a good move. Check, king goes here. I don't really actually see an immediate follow-up, so maybe I will just leave that and just castle, because I want to get my other rook over. Maybe here, maybe here. Okay, so he attacks my queen. You know what I could do, guys? There's a very nice move here. I could even play rook f8. Look at this move. If you take my queen, that's checkmate. If you take me and then take my queen, that's still checkmate. If you take me and then take my knight, I could go check, the king moves, the queen comes in. That's probably going to lead to checkmate. So that seems like a pretty cool looking move if I want. I don't have to. I could also just move my queen back or something. Let's say I go there and he tries to move his bishop to support. Maybe bishop g5. What do we do? We go check then? Yeah, I don't know. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and play it. And we'll see how white's going to respond, and then we'll make our decision. They do go bishop d2. Okay. Bishop d2 does open up this, though. So maybe I just grab the pawn there. Start invading along the second rank. Yeah, somehow they're just barely holding on here. All right, let's take the pawn. Of course, I'm still willing to give up my knight if it opens up the king. So, not super concerned that my knight is just sitting there. Okay, let's take another pawn. Why not? And I'm not so worried about opening up the files on my king because two reasons. Number one, I'm the one who's attacking. White has to be careful. They're going to get checkmated. But number two, there's no queen. They don't have their queen. So it's not so dangerous when there's no queen on the board. So that's why I'm much more likely to do this. If they had a queen sitting somewhere, I would be definitely reconsidering this. Okay. Do we take another pawn? Do we go in with a check and then take this way? Aha, to make the rook move and take the knight. That looks maybe even better. Let's do it that way. Check. We'll take this. It's the rook. That's the defender of the knight. That's called removing the guard. And looks like we're going to win some more material. Okay, they go there, but I'll just take that one instead. And they're falling apart here. You can't defend everything. I'm going to take something else here in a second. Okay, I'll probably just take this with check. Could also go check here. Then they might block. Yeah, this looks really good. Okay, so we could sack the rook. We could also just move the rook. I don't know what's better. Let's see. Takes, check. King moves there. Check. Yeah, that looks really, really good. Let's do that. Because if you're going to give up this diagonal, your king is going to be in trouble for it. So they do. All right, let's go with the check. And I'll go check with my knight. Oh, he might actually have a beautiful checkmate here, guys. If I go check, takes, check, king has to move here, h4, you can't stop rook h1. That is so beautiful. Let's do it. Boom. This is what's called a mating pattern, or a mating net, I should say, where the king is totally trapped in a section of the board, and there's nothing you can do to stop the mate. Look at that. Even the bishop is there, but it just can't stop it. That's a nice one. Yeah. Cool. All right. So good game. Let's go check the review. And we had a 91. All right, not too bad. Feel pretty good about that. The Madladn G-Sling comes through for us, which is... So he fell for the trap and lost the piece right away on move 3. So there you go. That's why you don't really want to take pawns like that. Anyway, that was interesting. All right, let's go to the next game. Aha, we are black again. Okay, we can't play it this time because it's a different story. It's just losing a pawn now. So against d4, I have a couple of gambits. Let's try knight f6. Oh, bishop f4. So he's going to play the London. All right. Well, yeah, London. All right. What are you going to do? I'm going to play g6. What I like to do against the London sometimes is just go get their bishop, take them out of their comfort zone. Let's play d6. Oh, he might actually be trying to play e4 here. Interesting. Yeah, I want to go get this bishop. Let me go knight h5. And getting the bishop pair is an advantage, especially if you can open up the board later in the game. And so this is a kind of an annoying thing that white has to deal with. They could try to hold on to their bishop, but if you go here, now you're blocking your other bishop in because your pawn is going to be blocked. That's not ideal. And if you go here, I'm probably going to keep chasing it. And if you do that, I'm just going to take it. So I succeeded in getting the bishop pair. Now I'll put my bishop here, line up on the d pawn, and I think we will just castle, get the king to safety, and get out of the center quickly. So when you have the bishop pair, usually opening up the position makes a lot of sense, and it's going to be a good thing for you. So moves like c5 and e5 are what I'm going to want to do here. Now, if I play e5 immediately, takes, that actually looks fine, because you can't take here, or I take you, and then win this guy. So I'll just do it right away. e5, just bust open the center. I have the bishops. My king is safe. His king is still in the center. Every sign is telling me, go ahead and open up the center. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so that's a smart decision. Gets out of the center while he still can. And what should I do? Well, I have the bishops. So let's just keep opening things up, right? Let's take. And this bishop's going to be a monster, because when you fee and keto a bishop like this, guys, the pawns defend the bishop from the knight. Look at this. The knight can't attack me, can't attack me, can't attack me, because my pawns control all those squares. So the only piece that can really attack, oh, and also rooks can't get me, can't get to me from this way. The queen can't get to me. The only piece that can really attack my bishop is, guess what? The dark squared bishop that I traded for my knight. So that's why this can be really, really powerful, especially if you're able to open up the center to where it has scope. If it's all locked up and there's just a bunch of pawns in the way, it's not going to be as effective. Yeah, that's what he's trying to do. But that comes at a big price. Yes, you kind of temporarily block in my bishop, but now I have a protected pass pawn, which is a whole nother story of problems that white has to deal with. So you can see how powerful this is, and that is why a lot of times, you have to be careful giving up your bishops like that. So I think I'm going to play just c5, just like, hey, let's just protect that baby and keep it supported for the rest of the game. I like that. And I'll bring my knight after the pawn is up. Of course, we can develop this guy at some point, but I want to make sure that this protected pass pawn doesn't go away. Okay, fine. Let's develop the knight. This is usually the best square for the knight, so I'll just put it there. And then we'll develop this bishop. I'm not sure where just yet. Probably here or here. Okay, he is attacking my pawn, so I do want to defend that. So b6, queen d6 is another move. Let's say I played b6. What's the downside of the move b6? Well, hopefully you could identify the light squares, right? Become weak. So like a move like bishop e4, I have to watch out for. Then I could go bishop b7 and just kind of counter the bishop. I think that would be fine for me. b6 seems reasonable. Queen d6 also looks pretty good because you get some other control over other areas of the board. You defend this. Then my bishop probably just goes here or here. But again, no, we've seen this before. Generally, when the knights move to like b3 or g3, just pushing these pawns is a good way to just shut them down. And I think I'm just going to do that. Yes, there's going to be some weaknesses here, but I have an easy plan. I could play bishop b7, move my rook or something, and I'm going to be just fine. So as long as it's okay to make weaknesses when you play chess, as long as you can see a very clear and obvious way to deal with the problems that might come from that, right? So I'm not saying never move pawns because you create weaknesses. I'm just saying make sure you have a plan. If this were to happen, I would just play bishop b7 and maybe knight a5 to offer some kind of a trade, and the game goes on, right? Queen d2. Okay, interesting. So yeah, maybe we go bishop b7 now just to do this. I could also attack this guy. But I think just getting the bishop here looks pretty good. So let's go bishop b7. And next, maybe we'll move the queen and then try to get the rooks on the e file. And keep in mind, guys, if we go into an endgame, I'm just going to win. I'm just going to win every time because of the extra pawn, right? It's a pass pawn. It's a protected pawn. Imagine if all the pieces were traded and there was only kings on the board. What would White's king have to do? Their king would have to just sit there to guard my pawn, right? That's it. And then my king gets to do whatever it wants and just take all the rest of the pieces on the board. So trading is good for me. And that's something that I want to keep in mind, okay? All right, I think I want to move my queen. I'm thinking about queen d7. Now, why am I choosing queen d7? Because I want my knight and my bishop to be defended. I want e1 to be defended in case I need support for the rook on the e file. And I like the fact that it stays in line with my pawn. Okay, that's why I'm choosing it over queen c7. Now, queen c7 is probably good too, but I think queen d7. The only downside to d7 is if I get harassed by the bishop. Nope, not going to happen, not going to happen. Or with the knight. Nope, not going to happen. This is defended, so there's no pin. So yeah, queen d7 looks like an amazing move. Let's do it. Oh, that was a good stretch. Yes, it was. Okay, rook e8. Rook d8. Seems like a very clear plan. And then we start looking for ways to force trades and go into the endgame. Also, this pawn is maybe a target for me too. It's kind of, okay, he moves that, so now he can do this. He can jump his knight here. It's fine, not a big deal. Yeah, I think we just go ahead and get a rook on the open file. No reason to overthink this position anymore. There's a principle in chess that knights are the best blockaders of passed pawns, and so we're going to see that here. The knight is actually doing a good job, stops me from moving, but it's also effective because it jumps over things. Okay, so actually I have a question. Let's say I play f5. The bishop almost looks trapped. There's a check here. I move. We might be able to force a trade, so that's one option. Another option is just moving this knight somewhere else, but where do I move it to? Because if I go here, I only have 2 defenders. There's going to be 3 attackers, so that would be a blunder. I could go here, or I could double up on the e-file. I think I'm going to double up. If they take, I take. It's not a big deal. This is still defended. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and try to double up. There's only one open file on the board. It's the E file. Remember, an open file is a file with no pawns on it. So that's this guy. And so because of that, that's why I'm going to double up. Of course, going behind the passed pawn is not bad either. But right now, the knight is blockading me. I can't really make the knight move immediately. So I am going to focus on the E file instead. White's going to do the same thing. Okay. You know what I could play, guys? I could play knight a5. Now, why would I play a move like knight a5? See if you guys can figure out this. Based on what I've already said, you should be able to figure this out. Why would I play knight a5? Knight a5 is going to force a bunch of trades. Because once the bishops get traded, the rooks are probably going to get traded. I'm attacking a pawn. Even if they defend the pawn and don't try to take me, I'll take them. Notice how the trades are going to happen. Okay, so I'm forcing trades by going here. And as long as there's no tactic where I lose a piece, but no, I'm defended, my queen's going to be just fine. This is what I want to do, right? I have the advantage. So I just need to get to the endgame, and I'm going to win. Okay, and white actually misses the threat. They saw this. They didn't see this, and they just blundered the piece. Okay, so I'll take with the rook again, because I want to trade more, so I'm forcing more trades. I guess you could argue that taking with the bishop also forces trades, but the bishops are more powerful, so I'll try to trade the rooks, keep my bishops against the knights, and now I'm just up a piece in addition to the pass pawn, and it's all over for white. But even if they wouldn't have blundered that and they would have traded, I would have been happy. I take, let's just say they take, I take, they take, I take, and then they play b3. Fine, I move my knight back, the game goes on, but guess what? We are much closer to the end game in that situation, and I can keep trying to trade. Then I move my knight here, trade for another knight, and then we end up with a queen and a bishop against a queen and a knight endgame, and I continue to trade, and it's an easy win at the end because of the pass pawn. Okay, so that's why it's important. You got to make sure when you get to the higher levels, you got to hold on to those pawns. Like, you can't just give up a pawn for free and expect that you're going to be fine unless you're getting compensation, right? But in this game, they didn't get any compensation. They just gave up a pawn. It's very different when you play a Gambit and you're like, okay, I'm going to give up a couple of pawns, but I'm going to get quick development. I'm going to get an attack on the king. I'm going to get all this other stuff, right? You have to understand the difference. Okay, okay. I didn't actually consider that. That's a nice little tactic there by our opponent. They're trying to win a pawn, which looks like they might be able to. I didn't see that one. It's still not going to be enough, obviously, because we're up piece, but nice little find there. I didn't see that. I will go ahead and trade the rooks, and then I will take the knight. And they're going to take me over here, but that's fine. We're still up a piece, and we still have our pass pawn. I wonder if they would have played that earlier, what would have happened. Immediately when I played knight a5 in this position, if they would have played that, that would have been interesting, because if I take, they take. No, they're still losing a piece. Yeah, it didn't actually ever really work for them. Okay. All right, so they take with the knight. I mean, I don't have to take it, but no, I mean, I want to trade, so why not? That's another trade. Let's just do it. Okay, so let's just make sure there's no, even if they go there, I could always block, so it's not a big deal. We could threaten checkmate, but it's defended by the knight. We could start pushing. And the only issue is, does the queen just go back and take my pawn? No, I could defend. I think I want to leave it where it's just kind of nice and defended like this. So, yeah, let's think about this. I could put my bishop on f6 to control here. And then my king can just tuck on g7. What I like to do in endgames like this, especially when I'm ahead, I like to find a nice little configuration where my king is totally safe from my opponent's threats. That could look something like h5 and put my king over here. But I think I like this way, because then all the pawns are defended. The queen has no way to get to my king. Yeah, I think I like that. Now, the only issue is I would be losing a pawn here. So I think maybe I do need to deal with that first. Actually, if they do that, I push. If you go here, I push. Yeah, you might not be able to get away with that. You know what? I'm actually just going to do this. Because I do want to defend this, and I'm also putting pressure on the knight. I like that instead. Because now your queen is tied down. So we'll start with this move. I'm still thinking about bishop f6, king g7, but I want to go ahead and get the queen on a more active file first. I think that's important. And of course, you still can't go here. You can't take this because checkmate, all these things. If you go king here, I wonder if... I was going to say, can I push this to threaten queen e2? But then you take, and I don't know if I have a clear follow-up. Okay, what if we try to invade and just take advantage of the back rank here? What's going to happen? Check, I always block, not a big deal. Your knight's being attacked. I'm threatening checkmate. I'm also threatening to push this guy and get a queen. That looks amazing. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Of course, you do have to make sure that this is not going to just be back rank checkmate, right? Because if you didn't have this Fiend Keto and you just had 3 pawns, you would just be losing the game. That's a nice thing about the Fiend Keto. Usually there's not back rank checkmates because you can always play Bishop F8. But you have to make sure that you at least consider it. Okay? So yeah, white has a problem because this is a threat, and then pushing this guy's a threat. How do they deal with all of those at the same time? We'll see what they can come up with. If they can find a solution here in 3 minutes. I mean, of course, there's pawns they can take, but that doesn't do anything, right? My threats are very, very powerful, so you have to kind of deal with the threats. Okay, so they decide just to go back, but now I think we push. Actually, if I push check, I block. They take with the if they take with the queen, I win. If they take with the knight, I also win. So they can't do that. So I will push. So notice the tactic. We block. Queen takes, loses because they lose the knight. Knight takes, loses because queen d1 is going to lead to a back rank checkmate. So that fork doesn't work. Okay, they do go for it. I block the check. And now we're threatening here. So if they play something like knight f, that also loses because of the back rank. Yeah, I think there's just too many things they have to worry about, right? They have to worry about the knight, they have to worry about the back rank, and they have to worry about the pawn. And they don't have a lot of pieces to help them. So I think this is going to be the end. Unless I missed something. See what they're going to do. Still have a lot of openings on my list here that we haven't got a chance to play. So it's interesting. There's just such a wide variety of things that people play, which goes to show why it's important to understand principles, tactics, just positional ideas, because those you can kind of use in every game, or openings, you never know if you're going to get a chance to use them. They're trying to find a way, but it's not going to happen. As far as I can tell. Okay, they go back to defend, but now we can just push. And we cut off the queen's defense from the knight. We're threatening to take. We're also threatening to push. And there's nothing white can do. Okay, let's get the queen. They have to block. We'll take it and let's checkmate. So, good game to our opponent. I actually need to run. This will be the last game for us, guys. They do go block. We will just take, and good game. Let's check the game review quickly. Yeah, 91. Kind of expected that. And it really goes to show how early in that game, that passed pawn was just really powerful, even. And so, yeah, you have to take this back. Yes, it's not a great position, but you at least have to take it back. Just allowing me this pawn is just, you're going to be in trouble for the rest of the game because of that, basically. And that's kind of what we saw. So, thank you, guys. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you next time. As always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.